It's time for dinner.
Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong.
From the creative mind of Scott Bertelson, after 4 decades of teaching our impressionable youth,
The dinner bell.
you are invited to enjoy conversational morsels for the mind at Mr. B's dinner party.
Yeah, dinner.
Hello, hello, hello. Ding dong, the bells of happiness are ringing, and you know what that means? Oh yes, it's time for
Mr. B's got a table so wide. Pull up a chair, let your worries slide. School days, tales, and a movie or two. He's serving up wisdom with a side of stew. Belly up to the table, my friend. The feast of thought will never end. From travels far to a spiritual climb. Morsels of musing served in rhyme.
You know what, my happy folks? Normally you listen to Mr. Bertelson warbling on about this and that and this and that and this and that. Well, guess what? Not today. I have 2 wonderful people from the Forest City community here with me, and they have volunteered, yes, I said volunteered, to talk with me today. I didn't even have to pay them. They're just lovely, lovely people. I've known them a long time. I'm talking about, drum roll please, that was awfully quiet, Ray and Joan Beebe. Hello, Ray and Joan.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
I'm good, you two. How are you? Do you enjoy those headphones?
Good. They mess up my hair, but other than that, it's good. Yeah.
Anyway, now the first rule here is that we're going to have fun, okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I am going to ask you some probing questions that I'm sure that people in the community have been wondering about.
Okay.
So we're going to get the dirt today, all right?
Okay.
So Ray and Joan, how long have you two been married?
It will be 56 years on July 5th this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Are we doing anything fun and different for that?
Probably not. I don't know. We haven't thought that far ahead.
Okay.
We have not done much today because we just got back from a long weekend and we're just kind of took it easy.
I'm with you. Yes. I had to have days I just have to try to regroup. Sometimes weeks. Anyway, all right. So Ray and Joan, you've been married a long time. How long have you two lived in Forest City?
56 years. It'll be 56, right?
My goodness.
In Forest City.
Ray's pointing at you. So
We moved here when we were married only 6 weeks.
Right. We've been here all our life, basically.
Our married life.
All our married
I
life.
did not know this. Oh my goodness. Now, what brought you to the Forest City area?
Well, I was working as an assistant attorney general in Des Moines, and actually, Joan and I had just been married, and we came back to Des Moines, and we're getting settled, and an opportunity came up for us to go to Forest City and work with Elliott Cooper in a law firm, and Elliott at that time was doing the Winnebago work, so we came up and took a look and decided to come up here. And maybe a little tougher for Joan because she had just downsized from Detroit to Des Moines, and then I'm talking about going out to a little small town, and she was already familiar with the town I grew up in, Avoca, Iowa, which is even smaller, and where her grandparents lived. In fact, that's how we met, was there.
There's a story there.
There is. And I'm hoping she doesn't tell it.
I have a way with getting people to talk. So anyway, with that being said, so 56 years in this community.
Right.
Yes. And while you have lived in this community that amount of time, have you seen various positive changes in the community? Or changes?
seen a lot of changes.
A lot of changes, yes.
Of course, we were moved in, and I've often said that the early 70s was a very historic time in Forest City, a lot of things going on. We probably didn't realize the significance of that era until we looked back on it. But that's when the Winnebago stock rose highly, and then just as high as it got, then things fell out in 73-4 with the oil embargo. And as I've said sometimes, when the stock was going up, 72, and Playboy magazine came to town, wrote an article, Old Little Town of Millionaires, and they said there were probably 35 or so millionaires in town. And as I've told some people, a year or two later, it became the little town of former millionaires, because most of the people that temporarily got wealthy with Winnebago stock held on to it and watched it go down.
So you were affiliated with Winnebago for that whole duration? Or how long were you in practice?
It takes a little explaining.
Okay.
When I first came, Elliot was the attorney for Winnebago, and I helped with some things. But then in 1974, he totally resigned, retired from Winnebago, and I took over as general counsel at Winnebago, but continued to be at the firm for a few years. And then, and actually, January 1st of 81, I went in-house at Winnebago, eventually being vice president, general counsel, and secretary. And if you want me to go on, I held that position for an unbelievable 38 years, from age 32 to age 70. And that was, I think, somewhat noteworthy in the fact that John K. Hansen went through a lot of management people, and I guess I'm the only one that weathered that long. And
yes.
And I've often said, well, I don't know whether John K. liked what I did or he didn't know what I did, but no, actually, we got along pretty well. And so when people talk about the history of Winnebago, I know that someone once said to John V., the son, that you should write the book and about Winnebago. And John V. said, hell no. He said, you go to Beebe, he knows a heck of a lot more about it than I do. He was there for everything. And so I did see a lot, and a lot of ups and downs.
Of course.
If you want me to go on to that a little bit, I always think of my time at Winnebago, we had 4 very difficult times. 73-4 with the oil embargo. 1980 was a recession, and also gas issues, and motorhomes were labeled un-American gas guzzlers because everybody wanted to conserve gas. And 1990, again, we had a recession and other issues internally, and that was a difficult time. But the granddaddy of the bad times was the Great Recession of 08, 09.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was past normal retirement age, but I was still there, and actually I was glad I stayed, because I think I had a little bit to offer in the sense that I had been through a lot of bad times, and we made it through. Our big competitors, Monaco, Coachman, Fleetwood was the major. They all went broke during that period. And I've often said that when our executive group met, there was a white elephant on the entrance to the executive staff meeting room that said, you're going to go broke. And we all decided to walk by it, ignore it, and put our noses down. It was a tough period. We had to do make some tough calls and do some tough things, but we came out. So
that is very, very apparent. Wow. That sounds like that should be a miniseries on Netflix.
Possibly.
You could write the screenplay. Okay, now, Joan, Joan, you're not going to get off so easily here. So tell us, while Ray was heavily involved in Winnebago for all those years, what were you doing career-wise?
Well, I did kids.
Oh, I've heard of that show.
Yes,
Okay, no.
I did children. We had our first son 9 months and 3 days after we were married, and our daughter was born 21 months after that. And when they were 7 and 9, we adopted 2 boys from Guatemala.
Yes.
And so they were 18 months apart. So all 4 of our kids were less than 21 months apart. So I was a stay-at-home mom. I worked community things. I was, involved in church. The school bond issue. I was chairman when we passed the school bond issue for the new elementary building, which for me was a big deal. I did play makeup, as you know.
Oh yeah, and
for many years.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
did
thank
that.
you so much for that. Yes,
Worked part-time at Merle Norman. My
right.
friend had a Merle Norman store here. Yeah. So that was kind of my background. But after that, we were basically, once our kids graduated and were gone from home, we were empty nesters for 5 years, and then we became foster parents. So, yeah, that has kept me. We've had 15 children altogether.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. Wow. So we're going to transition then a little bit into kids. Tell me about your children, and where they're at, and how many children they have, and how life is good with them. Whoever wants to go.
Well,
I don't care.
Well, she can say, and I don't.
Okay.
Either one can say it. I don't know that we want to necessarily identify all our foster children because of
Sure.
family situations. Although I think a lot of people know who they are. But
Yeah, I get that.
our biological children, our son Blaine is up in Minneapolis area.
Okay.
And he has 3 boys. And let's see, one of them just had their first grandson for them. So it's a great grandson for us.
Congratulations.
So we just had him a month or so ago, and they're doing all well up there, the 3 boys, and see them once, not as often as we'd like because they're a little farther away. Our daughter is in Clear Lake, so we see her all the time. And she has twins that just graduated from the University of Iowa. One is going to go into teaching, and the other one's going to law school, like her mom and her grandpa. So that'll
3
be fun.
generations.
Yeah, 3
That is
generations.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And then our one adopted son, William, he's a carpet layer in Mason City, and he has one daughter, Emily. And let's see, Jeffrey works in Clear Lake at Brothers Hardware, and he has a son, Nico, who has 2 little boys, and they're expecting a little girl in August. And he has a daughter that has 2 boys and a girl. Yeah, so we have 7 grandchildren. We're going to have number 8 now in August.
Oh,
So, yeah.
how do you keep track of all
Yeah.
that?
Well, then we have all the fosters, and they have their children and grandchildren and all that stuff. So, yeah, you need a scorecard, but it's cool.
All right.
So, life is good. Life is good.
What was it that Ray and Joan made you decide to become foster parents?
Well, we'd always talked about doing it, but we never got around to going to the training. And we were empty nesters for 5 years, and we had a young man show up at our house one day and said, "I'm never going home again." And he didn't. So then we went through the training. So of the, 11, what did we have? 11 boys. 6 of them were in the foster system. The rest I call my strays. And they were just kids that needed a place to be, not necessarily in a negative sense. We had one that was in college and didn't have money. And so I said, okay, move in with us. You don't have to, your room and board and things are free. And so that has worked out really well. So yeah, we have, I always say 14 boys and 1 girl.
Yeah, I was going to say what.
Oh my God.
We started out. We had this boy that we took the training so we'd be able to keep him, which we did. But then when the people in the system found out that we had a teenage boy, they had a real big problem trying to get people to take teenage boys. So that's who we took, and they loved it because they were pretty hard placements, some of them. And we ran into some kids that had come from some very difficult homes, and
But they've done well. They've been successful. They're working. They're doing their thing. A lot of them have families, and so they're doing great.
So you do try to keep in
Oh,
touch
we're in
with?
touch with them. Yes, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, we are.
Wow, that's a major undertaking.
Yeah.
When she says some of them were strays, why we could tell one story about a young man that they called from the high school,
Yeah.
talked to Joan, and said, "Are you guys still foster parents?" "Well, yeah, I guess we are." And well, we got this young man that's sleeping in the school because his dad kicked him out of the house, and
He was 18, so he had already actually
yeah, he was already
aged out of the system.
technically out of the system, but
Right. Yes.
would you be interested in taking him? And then Joan says, "Yeah, I think we could look at that." And then the person that called us from the school hung up, and then they called back in 2 minutes, and they said to Joan, "By the way, he's black." And Joan said, "I don't care if he's green. That doesn't really make it."
I actually said purple, but yeah, whatever. I don't care. So yeah,
Who cares?
yeah.
Then you want to tell how?
Okay, well, yeah. Then he lived with us for a year. Went out and did his thing. You know, kids do and stuff. Well, the Gateway Arch that they did at Waldorf.
Yes.
For Raymond and I, for him more than me. But anyway, he showed up. We had not seen him in 17 years. We had no idea he was coming.
My God.
And we spent the day with him. It was just a joy to see him. I mean, how he had grown. And when he graduated from high school, I always say, you know, he hadn't studied much and didn't really care much about school. Very, very successful now, has his own business. He's done professional modeling. He's done a lot of things. Anyway, he said, I can't believe the impact you had on me. And I said, what did we do? I said, we were just like parents, you know, we didn't do anything special. And he said, you're the only people that ever believed in me and told me I could be successful. So I think that's very important with young people, especially troubled people that have had issues in their family.
Oh.
Yeah.
Amen for that, Joan.
He came sailing into town in a brand new red convertible. I forget what kind.
Mustang.
Mustang, and
Yeah.
and we ended up. And she said we kept in touch with all of them, but he was kind of hard to keep in touch with because he
Just
moved
through
around
Facebook
a lot.
a little
And
bit. Yeah.
Okay.
but we ended up after the dedication of the arch there, they went out to Shooters and spent quite a few hours with this young man and had a really good time. But most of them we've had more regular contact with. But here we didn't know for sure what happened to him, and then just to see a guy be as resilient as that, and I think he could sell Eskimos ice, probably.
He could. I always called him my con man, but in a positive way. I mean, he wasn't like a bad con man, but he was kind of a sponge. He would watch where you'd go, you know, if you'd go somewhere, if he was watching something on television, for example, he would watch how people dressed, their speech, their mannerisms, you know, how they conducted themselves, because he didn't know any of that. He was just second person I had encountered that was like that, that just kind of said, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to figure out how to do it. So.
But when he first came, Joan took him shopping. She always took these guys shopping, and was could be an easy mark. Anyway, this young man wanted two things. He wanted, just as a starter, he wanted a gold watch. And what was
a cream-colored leather jacket.
Yes.
I said, I'll do the jacket, but the watch you're on your own.
You're going to have to wait on the gold watch. But
I think he has a gold watch now.
He probably has a gold watch.
I bet he does.
Yeah, he's doing fine.
He's doing So the dream came true. He got the watch.
He did. He did. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that is amazing. I truly think, you know, it sounds like an 8 is enough episode.
Yeah, right.
You have all these wonderful children that you have helped instill great values in. That, you know, your own children, foster children, adopted children. That's one of the things I admire about you so much. So I just want to let you know that.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome.
One thing I might add to that is
I've
also mentored a lot of young men,
yes.
primarily high school kids. Of course, a lot of times stay with them when they go into college. And it's a very common thing to see me at Sally's in the morning with some young man having breakfast. That's typically how I get together with these guys.
Okay.
And just been amazed by the quality of these young men and basically also come around to seeing the great young people that come out of Forest City, great values, dedication, motivated, just I can go on and on. And
yes.
I've often said or felt that when I retired, I didn't want to join some of the people I see downtown telling me how bored they are every day. And I did not want to do that.
No.
I always thought, well, I want to make a difference somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I've been involved with the foundation and the Waldorf, but with these young men, there have been a few times that they write letters back to me and say that I did make a difference.
Of course.
And that to me is about as valuable as anything.
Absolutely. So, Ray, with the mentoring of young men, do they come to you, or do people recommend you? How does that work?
Sometimes I get referrals. You know, one kid, he'll tell his brother to try it out, or sometimes they'll tell a friend, but lately I haven't known the kids going into the high school as much, so I go to a couple of teachers and also to Liz, the Taylor, the executive director of the foundation. I say, can you maybe give me some names of some senior boys that you think might be interested? And so they'll give me names, and then I always tell these guys that this is not anything required. It's but if you're interested, and then I think, not trying to brag, but I think a lot of these kids say, yeah, it's something you should do. Ray can.
Well, Raymond also is the world's greatest corresponder. He is wonderful. He will, if he sees an article about a young man in our newspaper or whatever that he doesn't even know, he will write them a note, or he will contact them on Facebook. He's that type that'll say, "Wow, that is really awesome. You know, why don't we get together? I'd like to talk to you about that," or whatever. So he's very, very good at that kind of thing. He writes notes and does all that all the time.
So, I oftentimes get him at their senior year, and their decisions be made about college and concern about paying for it, and just concerns about becoming an adult and how to go about it. And,
I wish I knew.
We talk about, right. What am I going to be when I grow up?
No, I don't know.
But so we talked through a lot of that, and I guess if I were to make one thing that I always do, somehow I always say, I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud of you, because it's a tough world out there, particularly now and for young people. So I think they need all the encouragement they can get.
I totally agree with you, Ray. Totally agree. Yeah. Yes. And that was one of the joys I had with teaching, too, just seeing them change and become different people and grow. And then when you get to see them in the community or somewhere where you're out and you see, oh, my goodness, I haven't seen you in 15, 20 years. Yeah. Wow. And you're successful. And at the time at high school, it's like, well, I wasn't quite sure. And most of the time, it's great success. Great success. So, Ray and Joan, what has also, you talk about all the things you've done for the mentoring and the fostering and adoption. What about, what have you done for Waldorf College? What's your involvement there, please? University, sorry.
Well, I didn't go to Waldorf. I wasn't, when I came to town, wasn't that familiar with it. But somewhere along the way, I think in the early 2000s, I was approached by Don Meyer, and I think Bill Hansen at that time was president. And would I be willing to serve on the Waldorf Lutheran College Foundation Board? My first reaction was, heavens no. But then the bottom line is I'm never very good at saying no. So I got involved, and little would I know that I would today still be president, chairman of the Waldorf Lutheran College Foundation. And but that was through a very difficult period. In 2010, the college was going broke, and sold, or was able to get a college in Alabama, Columbia Southern, to come in and buy. They were online school. They were looking for a physical presence. They came in and bought the school. And they were great partners for Waldorf. They subsidized, stayed with it longer than we might have thought they would, and allowed the college to thrive. And through that whole period, Bob Alsop was president. I think provided some really good leadership.
Yes.
But then one morning, Bob called me into his office, and he said, we have an opportunity, I think, that the foundation could purchase the college back from Columbia Southern. And that was always the dream both Bob and I had, was we need to have local control. As long as somebody outside had it, who knows what might happen down the road. And so I was very involved with that, and that was a very involved process. And I kind of played lawyer again a little bit, and that all came about, and we're still dealing with that. And I won't go on and on, but I mean it's a tough time for private schools, but Waldorf's hanging in there, and
that's great.
I always am a believer that lives change at Waldorf. I've gotten to know a lot of kids there too, and they come in and they go out a different person. It changes lives again.
Very much so. Very much so. So we are so lucky to have that university.
We are.
In our community.
Very much.
So lucky. Oh my gosh. So you have helped with that. Now, what was that dedication we had? You just made a reference to that. Were you happy to this fall? What was that?
At homecoming.
Yeah.
This year they dedicated the Bolsdorf Beebe Gateway. So as you go into the school, the football field, there's a new gateway, and there's a picture of the Bolsdorfs on one side and Joan and I on the other. Of course, Bolsdorf was the longtime football coach, and the football field is not the field, whether the stadium is named after him, and they honored Joan and I think, for our service to the community, and also for the much involvement that I primarily had with Waldorf over many years. And that was a very much of an honor for us.
Of course it was.
Very honored by that.
Yes.
What I thought was really kind of cool about that, it wasn't Waldorf that was doing it. It was actually community people that got together and wanted to honor him. I mean, more him than me. There's just put my picture on there. I just do the laundry. But anyway, it's,
Yeah, actually.
So that was very meaningful to me, because it wasn't just, we'll do this nice honor, blah blah blah, but it was the community that did it.
And Denny
Jerome and Kathy were
Denny Jerome and his wife Kathy kind of championed that effort, and they put in a lot of work. First of all, they went out and beat on some people that give some money for the BB Gateway or whatever, and they did, and a lot of people volunteered to work, people that made the gateway and all of that, and again, they and others put in countless time on that, so very, very much honored by it.
Well, congratulations, you two, on that. That's wonderful. Now, I also want to ask you two about your involvement with the Forest City Education Foundation, if I'm saying that correctly. How has that grown? I mean, I remember, well, this dates me, but that this foundation was nothing like it is today.
No.
Nothing. How did that all come about?
Well, and I go back to kind of ground zero with that.
Okay, ground zero.
I was in meetings in the late 1900s, 1997, 8.
Okay,
and,
yes.
We started out very small. I mean, I think the history there is pretty well known. At first year or so, we gave out like $60,000 in scholarships, and we've seen that grow to the point that we gave out about $600,000 this past graduation, and
Oh my goodness.
it's been a wonderful thing, and we help kids make college possible, or maybe make the college they want to go to possible, or at least alleviate the debt load they're going to have when they do graduate. And
Yes.
with my involvement with young people, I also say there's a less visible benefit to that than something other than just the money, in that it gives them the signal that the community cares about them and that they are interested in them. And I think that's worth a lot. Now, we, of course, are always looking for new contributors. Joan and I have given our own family scholarship to a number of young people over the years, and that's been very gratifying. We are still in touch with a good many of them, and have watched them prosper and do well. And actually, they have done well, and a lot of kids from Fort City have done well. So that's a real sense of pride, I think.
I think our long-term goal would be if we could have enough money that every student that was graduated from Forest City High School that wanted to go to college, it would be paid for. That's we're working on it. It's a
I always
road to climb.
kind of joke. There's a gentleman in Garner that passed away and left a ton of money that then has grown quite a bit.
Yes.
And I always somewhat kid, not entirely kid, that I'm still out beating around the countryside looking for his brother. Or at least somebody that's a bachelor and has a lot of farmland and nobody to give it to, because I would be able to help that person solve that problem.
You could.
And I'm still looking for him. But we are pleased. I always wish we had more.
Yes.
But I've seen the difference it's made for a lot of kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really has. It really,
very gratifying.
Oh, it is. It is. I remember when I graduated from high school in 1977.
You're just a kid.
Thank you. God bless you, Ray. But anyway, we got nothing. I don't remember anything. I think my parents gave me a little money. That was about it. But nothing like you see today. Of course, we didn't have the costs today then that we have today.
Costs are so high. It's crazy. It's crazy, yeah.
You know, we get a little envious of a town like Garner, but then I look around. Clear Lake does very little of anything. Mason City does very little of anything.
Okay.
And not that makes us great because somebody else isn't doing anything, but I think we should feel proud of what's happened here. And
I think some kids have actually either gone to college or been able to financially do it where they don't graduate with $100,000 in debt, because they've been able to get some help. So that's been wonderful.
Oh, absolutely. All right, now I'm going to change the channel. All right. I want to find out how you two met. When did this love story start? Give us the details. Come on. I want this to be like the Hallmark movie of the week.
Do you want me to tell it, or do you want to tell it?
You were there, weren't you, Ray?
I recall it.
Joan.
We have a funky story.
Oh, I love funky stories.
It's a crazy story.
That's all right.
My grandparents lived in his little small town, which my sister and I would come. She was a year older than I was, and we'd come to summer vacation for 2 weeks in the summer or so.
From?
Detroit, a suburb of Detroit, actually, Roseville. But and we never met anybody remotely close to our age. We're like, this is so boring to come here for 2 weeks and visit these old people that my mother knew, but we didn't know. And I thought, small town, there's absolutely nothing to do here. It's boring, boring, boring. So my sister and I were at the swimming pool one day, and Raymond was there with a couple of his friends, and he said, and we're like, these people are remotely close in age to us. This is really cool.
And I was glaring through the fence.
Yes, they were looking through the fence, yes.
How come you weren't in the pool? Ray, what's the deal?
Well, I don't know.
No, you were not.
You got to realize,
Trying to pick up girls, I think, is what he was trying to do.
Oh,
in our small town, one of the great activities was scooping the loop, and what that meant
yes.
was you would go through downtown, and then you'd go out a mile or so to the pool, and then you'd circle back, and sometimes you'd stop at the pool just to kind of talk and see what was going on. So,
And you do that for hours.
we didn't have nightclubs in downtown Avoca. No,
I'm sure you didn't.
No.
No.
So anyway,
Okay.
we talked to him. They talked to us, my sister and I, and said, "Oh, we have an event. I know somebody was having a gathering at their house.
Okay.
Whatever." And so they said, "Do you want to go?" And we're like, "Yes, yes, this is wonderful. Meet someone that's remotely close to our age." Anyway, so we went out. It was, I don't know, we just sat around and played music and talked and whatever. And so we kind of dated a week. And I say dated, it was super casual. It was like you just meet this new person.
Yes.
And he always fixed my sister up with a different fellow. I always ended up with him. It was funny how that worked. But anyway, so we dated that first year, the second year, the third year, just 1 week. We went out, we saw each other 1 week for once a year. Okay. Didn't see him for 4 years. And he came to Detroit and visited an uncle. And I was actually going with another fellow at the time, but he was in town. So we went out. We were friends. This is all good.
Yes.
Didn't see him again for 6 months.
Oh, my goodness.
Came to Iowa over my college senior year Christmas break to visit my grandmother. And I was in Iowa one day and we got engaged. And everybody went, "What?" I had just been to my sister's house in Alabama and I called her and I said, "I'm engaged." She said, "To who?" And we used to call him Beebe. As I said, "To Beebe." She said, "You're kidding." I said, "No, I'm not." But anyway, so we got married then in July of that year. We got engaged December 28th and we got him.
And we got acquainted after we were married.
We did. We did not know each other very well. It's kind of like I always say it's kind of like an arranged marriage. We really had only seen each other 4 weeks spread out over 7 years. That we'd actually been in the same state even.
But her grandmother in Avoca was an advocate for me. She kept saying, "Don't forget old Ray."
And here we are 56 years later. I say it's kind of like an arranged marriage, but it wasn't really because we didn't know each. I mean, it was kind of one of those deals, but here we are. So yeah.
That is most entertaining.
We're very different. We're very opposite, but it's worked. So yeah.
Here we are.
So the old adage, opposites attract, is true?
In our case, I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so tell me a little bit about that. How are you two different? Is one a morning person, one an evening person, or what?
Well, I always thought of you when we first got together, much more quiet than I was. You were much more serious and very quiet, and I was kind of zany and crazy and did crazy things, and a little more adventuresome perhaps than you were. And so, yeah, I guess more so that.
Well, she'd been in Detroit, obviously a little more adventuresome there. I mean,
Adventuresome.
she was a big city girl that came out and saw this little town boy, see,
Hanging out at the pool.
Yeah.
at the pool, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Scooping the loop. Yeah.
and I don't know that we came here like she said, 6 years after we were married. We bought a condo at Indian Springs. They were brand new at that time,
Yes.
and I don't know that we thought we'd still be here 56 years later, but here we are. So,
And so, I don't know how you did that, but you led right into my next question. What made you decide to stay in this area all these years? Why not go back to Detroit?
I thought of that several times,
Did
but
you? What happened?
never would go to the city. Never. No, that would not be his thing.
she loves getting cities and shop and all this stuff, and I don't know.
It was your career that kept us here, really. I mean, the Winnebago.
She likes Baumgars, but she doesn't necessarily buy her clothes there.
Now, don't let all this out of the bag, right?
My daughter, she and her sister-in-laws and their children, we have girl trips about every I'm going to say 5 years to New York City. And we just go to New York and do our thing. And so I'm hoping to get back to Detroit now this next year. When I was a child, I went to the Detroit Car Show. That's famous for cars, of course. And we have a fellow that we've gotten to know, and he's lived in Detroit. He actually played professional football for the Detroit Lions for 12 years. And anyway, so he and my son-in-law are cooking up this trip because I keep saying I want to go back. I don't think I've been back to Detroit since 1992. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
It's time.
Yeah, because my parents ended up moving here to Iowa, so they were, when they got older and stuff, and so that was fine. And my sister wasn't; she was down in Dallas, so it didn't involve her. But so we just ended up here.
We were talking earlier about I'd just been to a high school reunion and how much I love that, and it's 54 in my class, and everybody, and we've been to a couple of her reunions, and I remember she had like 600-700 in her class, and they'd all have their picture from the yearbook on their. And we'd go from table to table, and I'd look at Joan, and she'd look back at me and shake her head. I don't know any of them.
Right, that's right.
And then,
Strangers.
who are those
see
people?
why.
I mean, it's just so much different in the city.
Oh, yes.
One time she did run into an old boyfriend, and they took off to chatting, so I took off with his wife, and I chatted with her.
Right.
I'm just kidding. Just trying, trying to make it
It worked out good because we were catching up on old times, and it was worked out good. Yeah. So it was fine. We don't have any. Neither one of us, I don't think, have a jealous bone in our body. We just don't. So.
But as it turned out, then we ended up with her parents moving here.
Yes.
My parents moving here.
Okay.
And I even had an aunt, a sister of my dad, who had no children, and a bunch of nieces and nephew. And it came time why I became the nephew that she wanted to take care of her, so we moved her here too.
Okay.
So we've done a lot of that as well.
Yes.
And they had some needs, and we stepped up to it. And that was good too that we could do that.
Absolutely.
That was part of an adjustment for me when I came here, because where I grew up, you didn't do much with neighbors and friends. Everything was family, and every Sunday we saw my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, my cousins, that kind of thing. It was family always. And here we didn't have any family, when we came. So then you did things with friends and stuff. So it was a whole different dynamic, I want to say.
And I think you asked how we're different. That I'm very gregarious, and I run around town a lot. I know a lot of people. She's more let's stay home.
Okay.
Happy to be home. Like she said, their family didn't even hardly know who lived next door, and I was used to running around with all my friends. And up here, got involved. Of course, when we first came to town, this was a real mecca. Winnebago was going great. There were all these lavish cocktail parties that we went to, and that's back when women, most women did not work. So when we came to town, the women would have their day of Wednesday. They weren't working. They'd play golf all day, play cards, and then Thursday was men's day, and I never was one to go out there Thursday noon and start playing golf, but I would go out late Thursday afternoon. And what I did, most people would not say play golf. They would say I was attempting to play golf. But then everybody went into the clubhouse afterwards, and I was there too late some nights, and it was a real party atmosphere. And I miss that. Now we go out to country club once in a while and talk to the janitor. No, it's really not quite that bad, but I mean, it's just a whole different thing.
Whole different atmosphere.
Yeah, it is, and I miss that.
Yes.
It was a shock to me. I think I grew up poor. We didn't have a lot of money, okay? And lived in a little teeny tiny house. My parents lived in the same house for 50 years. And when we came to town, I was out of my element as far as going to this big cocktail party where you wore the long dresses and everything. And I'm like, what do you do? What am I supposed to do here? I don't know about this. And I guess the thing, it offended me somewhat because we got invited because he happened to be an attorney. Now, if he was a plumber, we would not have gotten invited. And I thought, what difference does it make what your job is? It should be whether they want you, whether they like you, whether they enjoy your company. So that bothered me a little bit. There was a little bit of a snobbery there. We're like, you had to be this certain, and that was not how I grew up.
No.
I mean, it didn't matter who you were. It was just whether you liked the people and whether they were good people. So that was kind of a shock to me in the beginning. So
Sure it was.
But I remember how tough COVID was for me because I was used to being out and about, and here
my
all of a sudden everything was closed. And
Everything.
I wrote a few things for the summit. One I said, thoughts from the bunker, where I was called my room a bunker.
Yes. Yes.
How is everybody out there?
Yes.
But, that was a tough time. It was a tough time for the kids, too.
Oh,
but,
terribly.
Anyway, we got through it, and we've our years have gone by very fast here. It's amazing. And, I guess one thing that disappoints me is all of our friends have gotten old while I've still stayed young.
I noticed that.
And
Yes.
I don't know what happened there.
Yes.
I'm
So you have discovered the fountain of youth then, right?
I have. I just got back from a high school reunion.
No.
Someone
Yes.
said, "Wow, you haven't really changed." Well, maybe a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, my goodness. Oh. So, with that being said, tell me about some of the excursions you have gone in your life. Where have you been in the world? You've gone on trips. I know this.
Well, we have, and
Yes.
she can get into some of that. I was
Okay,
just going to
okay.
say, with my work at Winnebago,
Yes.
I did a lot of, went a lot of places. We had legal things we dealt with, and heavens, I don't know how many different states I went out to for various things. And,
went to Australia on business.
and actually, I went to
Germany.
We had a company that was making counterfeit Winnebago motorhomes in Australia, so I went over there. We had a barrister and a solicitor and barrister. Yeah,
Okay.
You can't just get a lawyer; you got to get a solicitor and a barrister.
I see.
And then just one funny side note: when I was over there,
Yes.
they said we've got a new chief justice. They're swearing in, and we're not going to have this trial going tomorrow. Do you want to go with us to that? Oh, heavens, yes, that sounds pretty. So here I was the only one in there without.
Oh, yes.
The
Wig.
English,
Wig.
Wig.
yeah, the wig, So anyway, I loved it. It was Sydney, but I won't get into that. But it was a great trip, and she can maybe talk a little bit more about our.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been on several cruises.
Yes.
Out the Caribbean, everywhere. We did a Winnebago trip to Hawaii. Another one. Winnebago used to have really big deal trips.
Oh.
And I remember we went to Vienna, Austria, and Monte
Entertaining
Carlo,
dealers.
and we had been selected to be entertainers. So you get this big lavish room, with all the food and the drinks and everything, because you were entertaining. And that was for a girl like me that grew up like poor. It was like, gee, this is a kind of a big deal. So that was really fun.
Yeah.
And we've with our daughter and son-in-law, we've been on trips to. We went to France and Italy and
European cruises, of
Turkey
various
and
types.
Greece and we've been Spain. I mean, we've kind of been everywhere. We've been a lot of different places. We also have a timeshare in Mexico, and I think we've been going there for something like 22 years or something. And we usually go for 3 weeks. So yeah, we just
Puerto Vallarta, and
area.
Yes. Yes.
yeah, one funny story.
Yes.
One of the dealer trips we stopped in Haiti, and Haiti is so impoverished, and
Been there, I remember.
a lot of us should have known better. But we went to this big hotel in Port-au-Prince, and they had this big banquet, all this food sitting out. That we could pick from, but it had been sitting in the sun for too long, and long story short, just about everybody got sick. We were quarantined on the ship. The Center for Disease Control had to clear us, and I think one
gal had to be life flighted off the ship. She was really sick. A gal, her husband worked at Winnebago. I think she was in the hospital like 6 weeks. She was very, very ill.
Oh, my God.
Very ill. She survived, but I mean, it was really, really a tough go. So yeah.
So the other thing, we get back to Fort City, and people say to me, Ray, can we sue that hotel in Haiti? I said, I really don't think that we'll have much luck suing somebody in Haiti.
Yes,
But then I said, but have you paid them? And they said, no, we have not. Well, you will not. So at least we got some revenge. But
Yes, you did.
We had a young man from Hong Kong that lived with us for 3.5 years also. His sister had come over as an exchange student. His mother thought he was getting in some trouble in Hong Kong. So she sent him over here when he was like, I don't know, 14 or 16. He was fairly young. But anyway, living in a place in Fertile.
Okay.
And he said, it's so boring. I want to be in sports. He was going to school in Forest City, but it was like, so he was a good friend of one of our foster sons. And our foster son said, well, move in with us. Everybody lives with us.
Yes.
So he did.
yeah, they'll take they'll take anybody. It doesn't matter.
So yeah, so he moved in, and we got him through college, did all that stuff, went back. His mom and grandma and aunts and sisters and all came from Hong Kong. It was wonderful. So he got married a few years after that, and we went to Hong Kong for his wedding, and that was wonderful because you just saw how they lived and everything. As a matter of fact, we had not seen him since his wedding. It had been 17 years, and he and his wife have since moved to Toronto, and they have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old son, and they came now this past year, so we got to see him the first time in 17
They came
years.
in, the kids we'd never seen came in calling us grandpa and grandma.
Oh,
Yeah.
And they were very nice young
Oh,
men.
sweeties, yeah.
But a little story about the wedding.
Yes.
I actually, in Hong Kong, felt like I was Tom Cruise. Because at the wedding...
I'm sure many people thought.
Well,
you were Tom
it's
Cruise.
happened before.
Oh, I'm sure it has.
But anyway, all the people at the wedding wanted to take a picture with us because number one, we were taller than everybody.
Oh, yes.
And we were... And
I was the only one with blonde hair.
Joan, and of course, Joan was a beautiful blonde.
Oh, yes.
And so here they are all wanting to take a picture with us.
Oh, my, yes.
So I thought, wow.
If you have an opportunity to go to a wedding in Hong Kong, you want to do it.
why
It
don't
starts
I
at
go?
8:30 in the morning, and it goes till like 2 a.m. the next morning. And the bride wears 5 dresses, and the groom had 3 tuxes, and the dinner was 13 courses. It was just fabulous. And this was kind of, I say, a middle-class family. I mean, they certainly weren't wealthy, but they weren't poor. But yeah, it was just really, but they're teeny little apartments that they live in. There's just no space there, to do anything, but wonderful. We just had a wonderful time.
Gosh.
In Hong Kong, there's 2 things you can give somebody for a wedding. One is jewelry, one is money, because they don't have room for a dryer or a washer or a whatever. But, another little aside to the wedding, they have some custom or whatever that the night before at midnight, they have a combing of the hair or something. And the mother said to Joan, I want you to do that. Oh, no, Joan said, I can't do that. That's for the mother. No, you've been his mother. And I think you comb it. This is for good luck. This is for whatever. This is for whatever. You can tell
It's a
more
good
about
luck, yeah. So just the cultural things that you see, and we have a young man from Ethiopia that has been with us for 3.5 years too, and he came here as a young student on a scholarship working in Wisconsin, going to a private academy, and his parents came over and visited. We just had them this past year, so that was wonderful. I tell you, just when you actually can meet the people and you see the whole culture, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah, they came and they gave Joan and I these, what you call them, robes, I guess.
Native clothing.
Yeah,
they had.
And, so we went out to eat, and when we went in Prime and Wine in Mason City with those outfits on, I have to say we got quite a bit of attention.
We went to church with them on the next day too.
And we went to church the next day too. Yeah.
Does somebody think you were Tom Cruise there, too?
That didn't happen.
Oh, okay.
That only happened in Hong Kong.
Oh, well. Okay. So you guys are well-traveled. Yes. Okay, so now in your free time, whatever you deem as free time, what do you like to do?
Well, I don't like free time,
That's
actually.
what I thought. I gathered that. Yeah.
So I've kidded, and maybe it's not totally kidding, that I am working just as hard now as when I was working. The only difference is I don't get paid anymore. So, and that's the way I want to be, busy. So contributing.
Yes.
You used to golf. You used to bowl. I used to bowl. I bowled
Okay.
for many years, and then I had back surgery, so I had to quit that for a while.
Okay.
I did Pilates, different community things. Very involved right now in my church. I just do a lot of things with church, with Altar Guild and reading and Bible study and circle and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But
We've been involved there.
yeah,
Yes.
so
Yes. Do you like to sit down together and watch TV, or
We do some of that.
do
yeah.
some of that?
yep. Are you?
We like to go out to eat.
Oh, there you go.
We kind of have a little routine when the news comes on. We always act up. I have a little glass of wine,
Yeah.
and so we have our watch the news, and then we usually eat after that. And we eat out a lot. I mean, we meet friends, and we spend a lot of time with our daughter and son-in-law because they're only 18 minutes away. You know, so
Exactly.
we see them a lot. And they're girls. We're very close to them, and the girls will call and say, "Grandma, it's time to go out to lunch or whatever." And so they're just sweethearts. So it's fun to do with them. But we have friends that we go out with every week too. So
Joan's had some health issues this year that we're dealing with and getting through them. And but the granddaughters would call and, "Oh, how are you? You gotta be okay, Grandma. We love you, love you." And you know, that was pretty special, I think.
yeah.
Well, folks, I just want to say that you two are both gems for this community. Okay.
Thank you.
Just anybody who listens to this podcast will realize how giving you both are, how caring you are, and how supportive you are of other people. And the thing that I've always admired about you two is that you are, if I mean this in all sincerity, common folk. I mean, you put on no airs. You treat everybody equally. You are just somebody I truly respect.
Thank you.
So I just had to let you know that
Okay, that's good.
because it's the truth.
I appreciate that, and I am a common person, and
Yes.
I don't like anybody that
Yes.
has errors. And
I don't mean anything negative when I say common.
No,
I know what you're talking
No, I agree. I have friends all over the place.
Yes.
And that's important.
Yes. And I just wish you to more and more years of great happiness and joy, enjoyment, and just love life,
We
Appreciate
do.
that.
We do.
Now, is there anything in our conclusion that you would like to say that maybe I didn't touch upon that you would like our listening audience to know about?
Well, I'll make a pitch.
Go ahead.
We need you to give money to the Education Foundation.
Okay.
And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If what's more important than our young people? What's more important than helping them? And if you're thinking of estate planning, what better legacy can you leave than to help these young people? They're our future, and we have some great young people here. I see them every year, and I'm serious. There's some great kids, and I follow them, and they go on and make a difference themselves. So get in there with your pocketbook.
Give them the money.
Or use Vimo or whatever.
Right.
To give that money. All right, folks. Thank you for being my guests.
Well,
Thank you for
Very
having
much.
us. It's
Thank
been
you.
fun.
Maybe we'll do another one. Okay, so folks, that's Ray and Joan Beebe. Wasn't that exciting? Aren't they nice? They're so nice. I got to tell you folks out there, when I go to the same church that they do, and many times I will sing in church, and I see their happy faces out in the audience, and I just think they just bring such joy everywhere they go. Okay, have I inflated your balloons enough here?
I think so. You've done well.
But it's the truth. It's the truth. And so that's why I was so glad that we could get together. So thank you. So folks, there we go. We just had another great meal at Mr. B's dinner party. I hope you feel satisfied. I hope you don't need any Alka-Seltzer. We tried to keep it low carb for you. So anyway, until we meet again or talk again, or whichever comes first, we'll talk again later. Okay, bye-bye, folks.
Television dramas and comedic reviews, pet peeves buzzing like honeydew blues, poetry sprinkled like salt on a dish, every word served with a twist and a swish. Belly up to the table, my friend. The feast of thought will never end, from travels far to a spiritual climb. Morsels of musing served in rhyme.
Mr. B's Dinner Party is hosted by Scott Bertelson, edited and produced by Troy Thompson, recorded and distributed at Sunnyside Farm Studios, and platformed by Buzzsprout.
Conversations flowing like fine red wine, world journeys mapped with tales divine. He's hosting a dinner for your hungry mind, a banquet of life where you can unwind. Belly up to the table, my friend. The feast of thought will never end, from travels far to a spiritual climb. Morsels of musings served in rhyme.
Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share with your friends. Listen and enjoy every other Wednesday. Conversational Morsels for the Mind on Mr. B's Dinner Party.